Mike Winger ignites a massive discussion on X over the idea of Christian nationalism. Okay, if you guys don't know who Pastor Mike Winger is, actually one of the reasons why I'm on YouTube is because I was watching Mike Winger's videos about 2018, 2019. I was still making, I guess, like marketing advice for Christians, and then I saw what Mike Winger was doing. It spoke to me greatly, and I slowly pivoted over to Christian content. I would say 2020, 2021. Mike Winger was a huge inspiration because of that, and he, I think, is a very solid voice. I've since became friendly with him and dearly appreciate his ministry. But on this idea of Christian nationalism, there's a lot of conversation going on. So this is now like the little news sections on X, if you guys didn't know. And I'll share you guys my thoughts on this in a second. But it says, oh, and then my buddy Josh Howardson also chimed in, who's also a pastor from the DFW area, pastors a massive church out there, not without his own controversies for other reasons. But it says evangelical podcaster. Okay, so instead of calling him a pastor, Mike's not like pastoring anymore, so I guess that would be more appropriate, right? Evangelical podcaster or YouTuber. Evangelical podcaster Mike Winger ignited a discussion on X by criticizing the online behavior Christian nationalists, leading to varied interpretations of the ideology. Pastor Josh Howardson defined it as advocating for Christian morals in government while protecting religious freedom and promoting Christianity, linking it to America's founding, like Thomas Jefferson, use of the Bible in schools. Supporters see it as biblical civic engagement, while critics highlight risks to pluralism and church-state separation, with surveys showing 30% of Americans holding some Christian nationalist views among ongoing political debates. Now, there's a spectrum here within Christian nationalism. There are some people that go, hey, our Christian values, our Christian morals should impact the laws because all laws are moral to some degrees. The question is, whose morals? Then there are other people that I've heard that kind of wave the Christian nationalist flag that are saying flat out, hey, we want to have a Christian prince and have a violent uprising. Okay, that is very different. And someone like Doug Wilson, who actually just had a really good conversation with the Young Turks. I'm not going to react to it here, but I really enjoyed Doug Wilson's conversation with the Young Turks. I don't agree with Doug Wilson on everything. I think there's a couple things like women not being able to vote that I think are pretty weird. But generally speaking, I think Doug Wilson did a great job defending his position as a Christian nationalist with a pagan on a pagan platform. And so there's a spectrum there between Christian nationalism, right? So this was Mike Winger's actual tweet that kind of got this all going. And as you see, I like it. He said, Christian nationalists on X are working really hard to make me not like Christian nationalism. And then someone says, how would you, would you have called Charlie Kirk a Christian nationalist, or do you, or how do you define it? Mike Winger said he rejected the label as I understand it. So that's interesting. I didn't know that Charlie Kirk rejected the label. And then someone asked him some other stuff. He said, I won't be making a theological judgment on it based on people being punks. I don't mean to imply I would. I just said what I said. I like that Mike's just kind of just standing 10 toes down. It's awesome. So I'm not sure. I didn't know Charlie didn't hold that title. That's interesting. I think Charlie was changing views on different things. Charlie said some recently on Tucker that he was a Calvinist. Huh. Interesting. Didn't know that. Okay, so now let's see how there's a huge uproar, but I thought Josh Howardson's explanation of it was awesome. He says, if Christian nationalism equals advocating for your government to legislate from a Christian moral viewpoint, plus protecting freedoms of religion, but promoting the true one, shouldn't all Christians be Christian nationalists? So I think there is the idea that, hey, nationalism in and of itself isn't bad. Christian views and virtues aren't bad. And then you have Christian nationalism. If this is the way he defines it, sounds like a fair definition, right? For the record, this definition would definitely apply to the way our nation was founded. So that's what he's saying. And then Cliff says, I don't think that that's what Christian nationalism is, which again, Christian nationalism is this weird thing of like, what is it? What are we talking about? He says, I think Christian nationalism will be wanting the government to use the levers of power to the promotion of true religion. If we are just protecting freedom of religion, but promoting the true one, we are just Baptists. So this is Josh Howardson's response. He says, depending on what you mean by levers of power, that is what the government originally did. Thomas Jefferson mandated the Bible plus Isaac Watts' hymnal as part of public school curriculum. U.S. Congress commissioned and paid for the printing and distribution of a Bible. The U.S. government funded Christian missionaries to the tribes. The U.S. government constructed and conducted weekly Christian worship services in the Capitol building, etc. If that kind of thing is what we mean by levers of power, I'm all in. Okay? Sounds fine enough, fair enough. I think it would all come back to like, what are we defining as it? What are we defining these terms as, right? The founders did not want the church and the state to be one organized entity, a la the Church of England. This is something that Doug Wilson also said, right? Congress to pass a federal law mandating which Christian denominations will be the viewpoint of the entire nations. Those are the only two things they forbid. Okay. So the question is, Christian nationalism, how do I feel about it? Before I tell you how I feel about it, let me make sure you guys know that we have our brand new Among the Pagans apparel that is available for the next 10 days only. Live such good lives among the pagans, among the non-believers, the Gentiles. Live such good lives among the pagans that though they accuse you of doing wrong, they may see your good deeds and then glorify God on the day he visits them. And so it's a fun collection, loosely themed around All Saints Day. And the backstory of this is super dope. So if you want to get some, pick it up now. This is a great way to, one, support what we're doing here, who you represent when you're wearing this. So regarding Christian nationalism, I think it would depend on the definition. I think a lot of folks are upset about Christian nationalism this, Christian nationalism that. You know, something that I'm more concerned about than Christian nationalism, believe it or not, is actually Christian nihilism. I think Christian nihilism and Christians punting their life, Christians checking out from the market, Christians checking out from the institutions, Christians checking out from the arts, to me, is way more concerning than whatever it is that people are upset about regarding Christian nationalism. Again, based on how we define it. When I hear Doug Wilson define it, I go, that doesn't sound so bad. When I hear this idea of a violent uprising and a Christian prince, I go, I'm not a big fan of that, right? So it would depend on what we're talking about. Now, I think what Mike Winger's getting at is the folks who wave the banner of Christian nationalism are, one, kind of sloppy in defining it, and two, just don't have good PR around it. Again, Doug Wilson, I thought, did a great job. The other concern is that when we're waving the flag of Christian nationalism is that other weird stuff starts getting backdoored, right? So we're seeing stuff like, hey, women shouldn't vote. It's like, well, man, if they pay taxes and they're individual American citizens, why should they not vote? Like, that seems weird. Some of the other stuff, and I'm not saying this is Doug Wilson, but I have seen other folks that are kind of in similar streams that start backdooring some overt racism, right? Some overt views that I would say are incongruent with believing that all people are created in the image of God. Women and men, black people, white people, native people, Spanish people, Asian people, everyone's created in the image of God. And I have seen some stuff that kind of gets backdoored with pretty weird and racial undertones, generally conflating culture with race, right? So you look at some specific segments of culture, and then you take those segments that are deplorable and unhelpful, like crime within specifically condensed urban areas, specifically like black on black crime, for example, and then you parse it out and you start making absolute statements on all black culture, not understanding that less than 1% of black men do all the committing of murders, usually against other black men. That is something that I find alarming, but it's not unanimous across every single person that's waving this Christian nationalist flag, right? I don't think like that's something that Josh Howerton holds to. I don't think that's something that Doug Wilson holds to, as far as I know. So I think you do see some of that kind of getting backdoored within this conversation. I don't think that's helpful. And so Christian nationalism, it's worth having. It's worth having. It's worth defining. I'm Armenian, ethnically Armenian. If you go to Armenia, they would say that they are a Christian nation, that their faith influences their politics. If you go to Ethiopia, they say they're the first Christian nation. Are they Christian nationalists? Again, how would you define Christian nationalism, right? How would you define Christian nationalism? Now, for me, listen, I have no problem with saying, hey, the termination of unborn babies should be outright outlawed. Okay, no problem with that. I have no problem with saying that, hey, what people are calling this union that is not a one-man, one-woman marriage, I don't think that's a real marriage, right? I have no problem with saying these things, and I don't think there's anything wrong with saying, hey, we want our Christian values and morals to legislate our morality. And people go, well, you can't legislate your morals. Someone's morals are getting legislated. And by the way, all the people who have an issue with unborn babies being deleted tend to not have any issues with folks not being able to drink and drive, or folks not being having seatbelt laws, right? The same arguments that are railed against pro-lifers who say, hey, we think the termination of unborn babies is evil. Those same arguments were literally the arguments that people were making in the 80s when drunk driving laws came out and seatbelt laws came out. The same arguments. It's my body, it's my choice, it's my car, I can do what I want with it. And yeah, we collectively said, no. Why? Because your body on the road, intoxicated, impacts other people. And I think that folks who buy into this, it's just a clump of cells, are impacting not just themselves, but another human that's inside of them, not to mention the downstream effects that's going to happen to their bodies and their mental state and how that's going to affect everybody. So I don't have any problems depending on how you define Christian nationalism, but I think it's important that we define it. And again, if you guys don't know, the Among the Pagans apparel is back just in time for Hallows Eve and All Saints Day, and you can pick it up right now at blessgod.shop. This is the piece I'm wearing right here on the Champs hoodie. We also got some prints. We have the actual verse from 1 Peter on a shirt that you guys could check out. So all this is available right now over at blessgod.co. Hit the link in the pinned comment, and I'll see you over there. All right, peace.